Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star Part 304 based on novel. So let's start. My remote ocean is too enormous, thought Luo Feng. It's already huge like this now, and with time going by, it'll be measured in light years in the future. It's incredible to have such an enormous godly power even in the inheritance of the ancient civilization. If I want to merge it into a soul godly body, I need to attain at least a gene level of 90,000 times. Starting from godly power, using strength to break through the laws, and becoming a true god in the end, there were different levels, certainly. The perfect life gene level in the original universe was 10,081 times. Once someone broke this limit, such as by reaching a life gene level of 11,000 times, they could change their god country into a miniature universe in the blink of an eye. Of course, the improvement in power was negligible when making a breakthrough like this. Based on the documents about inheritance from Duandong River, those who became true gods with a life gene level under 30,000 times and followed the law path couldn't experience a substantial change in their power. 30,000 to 60,000 times was the first level. 60,000 to 90,000 times was the second level. 90,000 to almost 100,000 times was the third level. These were the three levels of godly power path. At the first level, godly bodies would be 10 times larger. For example, those with godly bodies 100,000 kilometers tall would become 1,000,000 kilometers tall, which meant the godly power would be 1,000 times more. Besides, this advantage would stay forever, even after surpassing true gods. At the second level, godly bodies would become 1,000 times taller. For example, humans could become 100,000 kilometers tall. It was most difficult to reach the third level. After all, in the documents of Duandong River inheritance, nobody had ever reached a life gene level of 100,000 times. The best they could do was to get close to it. 90,000 times was already an incredible threshold. When someone reached this level, they could have flexible sizes of bodies and unlimited godly bodies. It was true. Unlimited godly bodies and limitless volumes. Godly power decided volumes. The more godly power one had, the larger one's volume would be. Of course, after becoming a true god, one's godly power storage would be fixed. There was only a limited amount of godly power. Even the origin of the original universe couldn't give all its power to one being. When becoming a universe supreme master from a universe master, the original universe could only help turn a god country into a small universe. As for godly bodies, for ordinary universe masters, they followed the law path, and after making their breakthrough and becoming a universe supreme master, they would use miniature universes and turn chaos energies into godly power to supply themselves. Then they would become universe supreme masters with life gene levels of 10,000 times. The limit of the first level is 1,000,000 kilometers tall, the limit of the second level is 100 million kilometers tall, and the third level has limitless volume, Luo Feng thought. However, it's only a theoretical limit. One needs to swallow godly power for its godly body to become larger. Those at the first two levels might be able to swallow the godly power from the universe origin, but at the third level. Luo Feng shook his head. The original universe could only supply a limited amount of godly power, and after a while, it would stop. Otherwise, 9 remoteness ocean would have grown larger. In the ancient civilization, if an inheritor could reach the life gene level of 90,000 times, the previous inheritors would prepare an enormous amount of valuables to store the godly power for the juniors to absorb so they could form godly bodies with great godly power storage. However, we can't get those kinds of valuables in this civilization anymore. Fortunately, I have remote ocean for me to absorb. I need to reach a life gene level of 90,000 times so I can have all the power in remote ocean. There were 3 levels of the godly power path. And it was almost impossible to attain the third level. It was already a miracle for 1 out of 10,000 universe masters to succeed on the godly power path, and it was a greater miracle that 1 out of 10,000 true gods who succeeded on the godly power path reached the third level. The inheritors of Duandong River could all succeed on the godly power path with the inheritance they had. However, only 2 had reached the third level, and luck was required in both cases. Though it's very difficult for me to reach the third level, I still have a chance, Luo Feng thought. For one thing, I have the inheritance from Duandong River. For another, I have the space of inheritance. I can practice there, where time passes by 10,000 times faster. It was a luxury to be able to practice in a place where time passed 10,000 times faster than the outside, as it was against the rules of space and time. The longer a great being practiced under accelerated time, the higher the price he needed to pay. When Luo Feng was practicing in Beast God Sector, Space Beast Ancestor had only agreed because he was still weak. When the great beings were fighting for the inheritance from Duandong River, the powers had only allowed them to be trained there for a short period of time, because the inheritance from Duandong River was at stake. This acceleration was a robbery of the origin of the miniature universe. It already placed great pressure on universe masters to do so, and if a universe supreme master did so, it would consume much more power. Nobody dared to do it for a long time. I practice in my space of inheritance while I can maintain in the accelerated time. Besides, my remote ocean body also has an inherited technique, creation. Remote ocean had two inherited techniques, ocean transformation and creation. And once if performed the second technique, it could analyze the fundamental characteristics of many life forms and eventually even create life forms. 9 Remoteness Master had been able to create an entire race, and he was only a universe master. Even universe supreme masters weren't able to create an entire race, yet 9 Remoteness Master had managed to do that. Luo Feng was able to do that as well. It was based on his inherited technique, creation. Based on the inheritance from the ancient civilization, inherited techniques that can analyze the foundation of life forms and create life forms are the best for studying life genes. With this technique, I have higher hopes of reaching a life gene level of 90,000 times. I've already had plenty of help, so I need to make my own efforts now. All the previous inheritors had help from inheritors before them. However, only 2 of them had attained a life gene level of 90,000 times. Luo Feng needed to study all the life forms in the original universe, plant life forms, flesh and blood life forms, metal life forms, rock life forms, energy life forms, and so on. Other than those living beings, he also needed to study lifeless objects in the universe like materials, rocks, fruits, and strange objects. He needed to study billions of life forms and objects. It was a path where he needed to devote endless time and energy and study countless lives and material. He needed to find a way to enhance his godly power. He even needed to find the corpses of many great beings. Difficult. 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 Luo Feng was certain he could become a true god following the godly power path, but he couldn't guarantee he could reach a life gene level of 90,000 times. There was only a chance. I'll strive for it, as there is a chance, thought Luo Feng. If I can't reach a life gene level of 90,000 times before this universe era ends, I'll immediately make the breakthrough and become a true god no matter what. For what it was worth, it was easy for him to have a life gene level over 10,000 times before this universe era ended. I need to go to Universe Ocean and gather many strange objects and life forms now, Luo Feng thought. Only by looking into the foundations of life forms from varying angles could he advance on the godly power path. Luo Feng and Primal Chaos City Leader stood in front of the handrail. "Teacher," said Luo Feng, "I'm going to Universe Ocean." "Universe Ocean?" Primal Chaos City Leader looked at Luo Feng. "Yes. I want to become a Universe Supreme Master, so I need to gather lots of strange objects," said Luo Feng. Primal Chaos City Leader was astounded. "Why do you need strange objects to be a Universe Supreme Master? Strange objects are only under Supreme True Treasures, and they are rare." "Teacher, I don't mean that kind of strange object." Luo Feng smiled. "I mean things that are special, not necessarily true treasure weapons. I just need them to be special. Even a special rock will suffice." Primal Chaos City Leader had been told lots of information about the inheritance before, and he was surprised. "Are you following the godly power path?" "Yes." Luo Feng nodded. Based on the inheritance from the ancient civilization, it's very difficult to follow the godly power path. Primal Chaos City Leader couldn't help asking, "Do you want your remote ocean?" "That's right. I don't want to give it up." Luo Feng nodded. From now on, my original body and golden horned beast body will stay in Universe Ocean. My Mosha body and remote ocean body will stay in the original universe, and I'll leave 2 ancient god eyes here. They are enough to cover everything. Primal Chaos City leader nodded. Staying in Universe Ocean for a long time. This disciple of his was indeed determined. However, it required great perseverance to follow the godly power path. My ultimate goal is a life gene level of 90,000 times, thought Luo Feng. Only 2 inheritors succeeded from Duandong River inheritance, one of the best inheritances from the ancient civilization. I can't succeed without putting forth all my efforts. Okay, you may go. Primal Chaos City leader nodded. Adventure through Universe Ocean all you want. You have Star Tower and Boat of Mausoleum, so you have a better chance to survive extreme dangers. You also need to keep an eye on those 3 conspirators who led to Huge Axe's death. Please figure out why they wanted him dead. After all, there was no benefit from Huge Axe's dying. On the contrary, they might be in danger. I think there's something else going on behind this. Okay. Luo Feng nodded. It also has to do with the original mind, which told us through the ancestral god school. They seem to want us to kill those 3. Even the original mind is involved, now. I think there's a huge scheme behind this. Primal Chaos City leader nodded and said, even though you're on it, you should be more cautious with your own well-being. Don't worry. Luo Feng smiled. Teacher, I'll go to Universe Ocean now. Primal Chaos City leader nodded. He then watched Luo Feng fly away and disappear. Within the vast void space outside the universe boat, a 9-story tower was advancing very quickly, and its extremely high speed left a dazzling tail of light in its trail. Within the tower, Luo Feng had Blood Ghost blade slung across his back as he looked far ahead into the distance at the towering yet damaged universe boat. Starting today, he whispered, I shall spend the majority of the next couple years roaming about the 3 most dangerous lands of the Universe Ocean. I am no longer the Luo Feng of yesterday. Now, I have become a universe master. After countless eras of submerging myself in cultivation, albeit discreetly, my strength has greatly increased. There is no need for me to act in secret anymore. Many universe masters had stayed around the peripheral region of Universe Boat for a long time, but most of them were only at the 3rd to 4th tier standard. Look, the supreme true treasure, Star Tower. It's Star Tower from the primal universe. I heard that internally, the primal universe is divided into 2 big factions. The United Forces camp and human camp are engaged in an unprecedented, ultimate war. One from the human camp is Milky Way Horde leader, who has taken out Star Tower. Now that the situation within the primal universe has stabilized, Milky Way Horde leader actually drove Star Tower here to Universe Boat. Star Tower has stood in the primal universe for such a long time, but no one has managed to get it to recognize a master. Who would have expected it to finally fall into the hands of Milky Way Horde leader? Besides, this Milky Way Horde leader was also the one who had received the inheritance of the pulse of Duandong River. Milky Way Horde leader is simply too lucky. Why don't I have such good luck? Luo Feng had no intentions of hiding at all. On board Star Tower, he had charged his way into Universe Boat. Of course, he would have gathered a sizable crowd of onlookers. Reporting to our race ancestors, the human, Milky Way Horde leader, Luo Feng, from the primal universe era has just entered the Universe Boat onboard Star Tower. True masters. Luo Feng has entered Universe Boat. Ancestor, Milky Way Horde leader has just entered the Universe Boat onboard his Star Tower. Just only. How fast did news spread in Universe Ocean? In just one day, the news had spread to all 3 reincarnation eras and the 2 Holy Land. After all, since Luo Feng had received the inheritance of the pulse of Duandong River, he had become a moving treasure in the eyes of various groups of top powers within the entire Universe Ocean. Who would not covet Luo Feng's inheritance? The only thing was, they did not have the ability to obtain it. Once where Luo Feng had been besieged by a group of Universe Supreme Masters, every single one of them had released an outburst of combat power at the 7th to 8th tier level. There were even some who had released an outburst of 9th tier combat power. When all of these were combined, The force was so powerful that even teacher Origin might not have been able to resist it. But at the time, it was not even enough to make Boat of Mausoleum to budge. That was when they all knew that by using brute force alone, there was no way they could get that inheritance from Luofeng. But this time around, he had chosen to bring Star Tower into Universe Boat instead. This made them all doubtful of his intentions. The human camp had just stabilized, and Star Tower, an important combat power, was actually brought out into the Universe Ocean. And so openly, at that. Seems like Luofeng is very confident about the strength of the human camp. All Universe Masters of my race shall obey this command. Do not provoke Luofeng. Keep your distance, and if you see him from a distance, be sure to steer clear of his path. Transmit my command. No Universe Masters shall provoke Luofeng. Luofeng, who was on board Star Tower, entered Universe Boat. As he made his way into the deeper region of Universe Boat, not a single great being dared to provoke him. After all, those who did were normally Universe Supreme Masters, and Universe Supreme Masters were mostly gathered in the core or at least at the peripheral area of the core. As for Universe Masters, for now, all the groups of top powers within the Universe Ocean knew that Luofeng had a palace-type supreme true treasure, Star Tower. When Star Tower executed its swallowing technique, only those who were at least at the 6th tier as the top-level power could resist. Normal Universe Masters who hid a good distance away would be spared, but the moment they were near, they would be swallowed by Star Tower right away. Secondly, Luofeng had a soul impact treasure. There were sayings that only those with willpower at the level of a Universe Supreme Master would be able to resist. Otherwise, anyone else would not be able to put up any resistance before Luofeng. These two factors alone made all the Universe Masters from the groups of top powers extremely fearful of Luofeng. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, Luofeng had been in Universe Boat for 300 years. He might have been strong, but his speed was still unable to exceed the limit of 100 times light speed. So if he wanted to make it to the secret chamber within the space of the Cyan token, he would still need close to 700 years to arrive at his destination. While many Universe Masters of the various groups of top powers had been on tenterhooks when Luofeng first appeared within the Universe Ocean, now, they were no longer so worried. In the beginning, they had been afraid that Luofeng would initiate an orgy of killing. After all, the ancestral god Eye was only capable of facing one direction at any one time. It was limited in terms of distance affected, but it was still considerably far. The combination of the ancestral god Eye and Star Tower was an absolute nightmare for the Universe Masters. If they were to accidentally encounter Luofeng, there was no way they would have time to escape. When some Universe Masters accidentally bumped into the approaching Star Tower, they were all scared out of their wits. Without second thoughts, they took off in another direction. However, when Star Tower passed them, it did not attack. Initially, they felt relieved. With the passing of time, especially after more than 300 years had passed, even when Luofeng crossed paths with any of the Universe Masters, he still made no move to attack. This had put the majority of the Universe Masters at ease. I am no fool. Standing in the hall of Star Tower, looking out at the endless blazing flames, Luofeng smiled to himself. I may have the ability to kill and capture these Universe Masters. I may even be more skillful than most of the Universe Supreme Masters, but, if I were to kill mindlessly, I would make enemies all over the place. Making enemies everywhere, thought Luofeng. That, I am not scared of. But it would subsequently bring harm to my human race and the Hong Alliance. The various groups of top powers of the universe had once joined forces to attack the Boat of Mausoleum, but at that time, everyone had attacked one another, so there had been no loss on any side. Therefore, it had not resulted in a feud. Some great beings could still continue to maintain close friendships with Luofeng. But if he were to go on a rampage, killing universe masters of other races, and there were universe masters who were annihilated as a result, then hatred and enmity would arise. When he had fought against the other races, so long as there were no injuries, he could still join forces with these other races to fight others if the need arose. But if the opposing side annihilated Ice Mountain Master or Primal Chaos City Leader, Luofeng would be red-eyed with anger. The same theory applied. If he had gone on a rampage, killing mercilessly, he would have made enemies everywhere he went. By then, the Universe Masters whose abilities were a notch weaker, like Longyang Master and Remote Lord Master, would have trouble making their way about Universe Ocean. Of course, Luo Feng would never allow himself to take such a foolish course of action. I have been in the outside world for over 300 years and in the space of cultivation for more than 300 eras, Luo Feng said to himself. Comprehending Star Tower has brought me to my current ultimate limit. The second volume of Extermination, one of 3 sets of lost knowledge, is too difficult. I have yet to master it. But I have gained a lot from Star Tower, which is more than enough. Before the battle, he was only able to comprehend the first 3 layers of secret engravings of Star Tower. For an ordinary supreme true treasure, the 3rd layer would normally reach the 6th tier as the top level of combat power. The 4th layer of secret engravings would reach the 7th tier as the top level of combat power. The 5th layer of secret engravings would reach the 8th tier as the top level of combat power. The 6th layer of secret engravings would reach the 9th tier as the top level of combat power. This was huge Axe's level. The 7th layer of secret engravings would reach the 10th tier as the top level of combat power. This was Teacher Origin's level. However, some supreme true treasures might not have a 7th layer of secret engravings on them. The classification of an ability could usually be determined this way. But Star Tower was different. The first 3 layers of Star Tower were still considered normal, where the 3rd layer was at the 6th tier as the top level of combat power. The 4th layer, the 7th tier as the top level of combat power. The 5th layer, the 8th tier as the top level of combat power. The 6th layer, the 8th tier as the top level of combat power. The 7th layer, the 9th tier as the top level of combat power. The 8th layer, the 9th tier as the top level of combat power. The 9th layer, the 10th tier as the top level of combat power. For now, Luo Feng could only faintly detect its power up to the 9th layer. After that, everything was blurred, and he simply could not detect further. As for its strength, he could vaguely make a judgment based on its secret engravings. Of course, for now, Star Tower was fully capable of executing combat power at the 5th layer, which was the level at which Luo Feng managed to gain a complete comprehension of after spending more than 600 eras comprehending it. From its strength, one could tell the difference between Star Tower and the other supreme true treasures. Star Tower's 4th layer was no different from the 4th layer of other supreme true treasures. However, its 6th layer was matched to the 5th layer of other supreme true treasures. Other supreme true treasures followed the sequence of the 7th tier as the top level of combat power, 8th tier as the top level of combat power, 9th tier as the top level of combat power. But for Star Tower, the sequence was the 7th tier as the top level of combat power, 8th tier as the top level of combat power, 8th tier as the top level of combat power, 9th tier as the top level of combat power. Firstly, its power could be fully maximized. Secondly, every layer of secret engravings would represent one type of combat technique. The 4th layer and 5th layer meant that Luo Feng had mastered 2 more different techniques. For normal supreme true treasures like Black Prison Tower, I'm afraid they could only execute up to the 4th layer, Luo Feng thought. But for Star Tower, I can execute techniques up to the 4th and 5th layers. The 2 techniques that he was able to execute upon increasing his level made Luo Feng even more eager and interested in Star Tower. When my strength improves by another notch, I will be able to create a higher level blade technique, Luo Feng said to himself. By that time, I will be able to comprehend the 6th and 7th layers. While other Universe Supreme Masters improved their strength by comprehending the next layer of secret engravings, Luo Feng improved his by comprehending 2 layers. In the blink of an eye, Luo Feng had been in Universe Boat for more than 400 years. Within Whirling Swamp Ocean in the internal region of Universe Boat, the greenish whirling swamp ocean was forming numerous gigantic whirlpools that were tearing everything apart. Within the whirling swamp ocean was a huge red reef with its largest diameter being around 900 million kilometers. On this red reef were 12 Universe Masters. All of them were staring hard into the distance. There were numerous whirlpools created by the whirling swamp ocean, and they all converged to give rise to an extremely large whirlpool. Far in the distance was the core of that extremely large whirlpool. Every time a treasure is born within the whirling swamp ocean, It will be a pinnacle true treasure at least. It might even be a pinnacle domain type, palace type, or many other kinds of precious true treasures. The 12 universe masters, who all came from different groups of top powers, were staring intensely as they waited in silence. The endless whirlpools of the whirling swamp ocean produced a gale that could sweep through everything in time and space. Comparatively, the whirlwind around the reef was weaker, yet it was more than enough to cause the universe masters on the reef to face difficulty in standing. Suddenly, a streak of light flew over at high speed from afar. The universe masters of various races on the reef were taken aback. It is the most dangerous moment of the whirling swamp ocean right now. Who would dare to hover in the skies above? Are they not worried about being swept down into it? It's Star Tower. The 9-story tower. It's Milky Way Horde leader's Star Tower. No wonder he dared to barge his way in so directly. It's because he has a palace supreme true treasure. If I had one, I, too, would dare to charge my way straight into the deep region of the whirling swamp ocean. These universe masters all watched from afar in astonishment. Not a single one of them had the intention of escaping or hiding. When Luo Feng had just entered Universe Boat, the moment they saw him, they would most likely have scattered to escape for their dear lives. But now, everyone knew. Luo Feng indeed had the demeanor of a great being. He would never ever bully the weak. All this while, no one had ever heard of Luo Feng killing anyone. Star Tower is taking a turn. It is flying toward us. It is coming over. All the universe masters on the reef, who were either plant life forms, energy life forms, or flesh and blood life forms, were instantly shocked. The next moment, they all started to panic. If this Milky Way Horde leader had no designs on them, why would he deliberately make a turn and head in their direction? But now, even if they wanted to, it was too late to escape. Because he was already too close, the gale of whirling swamp ocean had reached an extremely high level. They did not even dare to fly in the skies above. A life form with 3 black spikes on its back yelled, "Milky Way Horde leader, the true treasure that will be born from this whirling swamp ocean, we are willing to let you, Milky Way Horde leader, have it." Every universe master there, all of whom were from different races, watched expectantly. Star Tower gradually reduced its speed and hovered at a particular spot above the reef. From one of the side doors at the base of Star Tower, a lone figure slowly flew out. Garbed in silver armor and with 4 silver wings outspread, the figure swept its gaze across the surroundings as he looked down. The other 11 universe masters here have no cause for worry. I am here, only because of him. Luo Feng's finger pointed down at one of the 12 universe masters. Instantly, the other 11 universe masters turned around to see who the unlucky fellow was. Their eyes fell upon the tall and lofty thunder giant who carried lightning balls on his chest. His expression betrayed his fear as he looked around, then looked up at Luo Feng. His face was filled with panic and terror. Thunder giant looked around. The 11 universe masters around him tried to stay away. They would have loved to see this thunder giant suffer. These universe masters of other races could tell that Luo Feng was seeking the thunder giant for personal issues. Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng had been in Universe Boat for a long time, and he'd never made reckless killings before. However, he was suddenly targeting one of the universe masters. Apparently, there were some personal issues between them. Thunderstorm Star Race. Luo Feng looked down at the thunder giant. Thunder Shuttle Master. Thunder Shuttle Master said, horrified. Milky Way Horde leader, I have never seen you before, and there's no grudge between us. Why are you targeting me? He was brave, but he was still terrified by a being who could easily kill him. No grudge. Luo Feng sneered. Of course, there is. Otherwise, why would I target you? The other universe masters were watching them fight. They were barely acquaintances with Thunder Shuttle Master. Besides, they were competitors with each other for the true treasures about to be born. They were happy that Luo Feng was targeting Thunder Shuttle Master. They all knew how powerful Luo Feng was, so none of them dared to meddle. Otherwise, they would bring trouble upon themselves. Milky Way Horde leader, said Thunder Shuttle Master. No need to say anything, said Luo Feng. Then he yelled, get in. Suddenly, a black hole appeared at the bottom of Star Tower, and it started to swallow the Thunder Giant. No. Thunder Giant yelled and struggled to get out. I'm from Thunderstorm Star. My ancestor is Great Thunderstar Master. Luofeng, if you kill me, you'll make yourself an enemy of Thunderstorm Star and Great Thunderstar Master. The space trembled under the roar. Apparently, that Thunder Giant was hysterical. I am making myself his enemy, said Luofeng. Although the Thunder Giant struggled against the swallowing power, he was still flying toward the base of Star Tower. Finally, he was completely sucked in. This turn of events terrified all the 11 universe masters of other races in the area. They were all silent as the powerful Thunder Shuttle Master was sucked into Star Tower. Everyone was terrified. They knew Luofeng was powerful, but they were still frightened to witness it with their own eyes. That Luofeng is mad. He has no respect for Great Thunderstar Master, who is one of the most powerful Universe Supreme Masters from the First Universe era. Even races like the Divine Eye clan don't want to be enemies of the Thunderstorm race, which has a small population but great power. Luofeng held Star Tower and landed slowly. The sight horrified all the Universe Masters. What did he want? He had already captured Thunder Shuttle Master. Why wasn't he leaving? Luofeng stepped on the ground and looked around at the powerful Universe Masters around him. Most of these Universe Masters were at level 5, and the weakest were at top-tier level 4. He said, I captured Thunder Shuttle Master because of Great Thunderstar Master. You can spread the news and tell everyone that I'll stay at the center of Whirling Swamp Ocean and wait for him for 10 years. If he doesn't show up within 10 years, I'll kill Thunder Shuttle Master. Did you hear me? Luofeng glanced around. Don't worry, Milky Way Horde Leader, we'll spread the news for sure. None of the Universe Masters dared to disobey him. He was too powerful and had just made himself an enemy of Great Thunderstar Master. Of course, they didn't want to go against him. It was only spreading the news. They would have done that even Luofeng hadn't asked them to. Then you can just wait here until the valuables are born. No need to worry about me. Luofeng waved his hands, and Star Tower landed on the ground. It immediately became larger and reached 100 million kilometers tall, standing at the center of the huge reef. Luofeng entered Star Tower and started to wait. Thunder Shuttle Master, Luofeng said, transmitting his voice. If your Great Thunderstar Master doesn't come, don't blame me for your death. Thunder Shuttle Master didn't say a word. Luofeng was under the spotlight of the 3 universe eras and the 2 holy lands in Universe Ocean. Everything he did attracted attention. He hadn't targeted anyone after entering Universe Ocean. However, he had suddenly captured Thunder Shuttle Master from Thunderstorm Star and was now waiting for Great Thunderstar Master. And he had set a deadline of 10 years. Universe Supreme Masters can easily break the speed limit, and they can arrive at Whirling Swamp Ocean no matter where they take off from. Luofeng gave a deadline of 10 years, clearly enough time. Why does Luofeng want to make himself an enemy of Great Thunderstar Master? Who knows? Core ground of Tilted Peak Sector, in 10,000 Waves Waters, an area close to the Land of Darkness. That same day, the news was spread. 10,000 Waves Water was an area in the core ground of Tilted Peak Sector, and it was famous for its illusions. Even with a supreme true treasure palace, it was difficult to get out if one was lost. Of course, it was still much safer than the Land of Darkness. After all, nobody had ever managed to survive the Land of Darkness. An ancient ship floated on the waves. On the ship sat a giant mountain creature, an iron creature, and a thunder giant. They were the 3 eminent creatures from the First Universe era, Dragon Rock Ancestral God, Xinjiao Emperor, and Great Thunderstar Master. Dragon Rock Ancestral God sat there, and his voice rumbled. Great Thunder, that human brat captured a universe master of your race, and he has now spread the news that he's going to wait for you in Whirling Swamp Ocean for 10 years. 10 years is already enough for any Supreme Masters to get to Whirling Swamp Ocean from anywhere in Universe Ocean. Besides, if you don't go, you'll be the laughingstock of all the powers in Universe Ocean. Are you going, Great Thunder? Xinjiao Emperor asked, eyes gleaming. The Thunder Giant sat there and said, I am. Great Thunder, if you don't go, you'll be a joke, said Dragon Rock Ancestral God. However, The issue we're dealing with is of the utmost importance. Jinjiao Emperor added, "That's right. If another Universe Supreme Master comes, the two of us alone might not be able to deal with it. Last time, when we were fighting Huge Axe, we almost failed." "Humph." Thunder Giant snorted. "Only a couple of decades, and chances are, there won't be any Supreme Masters. Besides, that Luo Feng is provoking me. How can I not go? He's only a Universe Master, and he's looking down on Universe Supreme Masters just because of his valuables. He's being suicidal. If I can have this chance to kill him, it'll help us transcend incarnation. Kill that brat." Both Dragon Rock Ancestral God and Jinjiao Emperor shook their heads. What a joke. Even a large group of Universe Supreme Masters combined couldn't hurt Luo Feng. Great Thunder. Does Luo Feng know that we had something to do with Huge Axe's death? Dragon Rock Ancestral God asked. Is that why Luo Feng is targeting you? Perhaps Huge Axe told the humans before he died, said Jinjiao Emperor. Then it's natural that Luo Feng's targeting you. If so, Universe Masters of my race will be in danger as well. It doesn't matter whether Huge Axe told the human race before he died or not. How does that impact us? Said Great Thunderstar Master coldly. They don't even have a Supreme Master. What can they do to us? Besides, we're close to our true death, and we're from the First Universe era. We have to seize this one last chance. Jinjiao Emperor and Dragon Rock Ancestral God both agreed. I'm going to deal with that Luo Feng. I'll come back soon. Great Thunderstar Master took a true treasure palace and flew away like a streak of light. Jinjiao Master and Dragon Rock Ancestral God exchanged a glance, then gave an order to the Universe Masters of their races. Jinjiao Emperor immediately gave an order using the godly power avatar in his small universe, and so did Dragon Rock Ancestral God. Those in Universe Boat, leave Universe Boat as soon as possible. If you can't leave Universe Boat, hide in some secret places in Universe Boat. Try everything to avoid Luo Feng. Time passed. Star Tower stood at the center of whirling swamp ocean on the reef, yet there were already 13 Universe Masters already. Apparently, some pinnacle true treasures would soon be born in whirling swamp ocean. Many great beings knew about this. Luo Feng didn't kill beings recklessly, and with the temptation of valuables, 2 more Universe Masters had come here. Purple Moon Holy Land. Pei Xing, you've already reached level 5, said a Universe Master from Purple Moon Holy Land with 3 faces and 8 arms. You can leave the Holy Land. Congratulations. You can finally go to Universe Ocean, said a male being with 4 faces and 16 arms. All his 4 faces looked exhilarated. I've heard so much about Universe Ocean, yet I couldn't go before. Fantastic, fantastic. With great excitement, he started to fly out like a streak of light. He sometimes teleported, sometimes flew at a fast speed. Before long, he had flown out of Purple Moon Holy Land. Universe Ocean. He looked at the endless chaos airflow and looked back at the giant Holy Land. The 4-faced, 16-armed being was exhilarated. I've been in the Holy Universe for 18 universe eras, and finally, I enter Universe Ocean. This is Universe Ocean, and there are 3 lands of extremis. This new Universe Master, Pei Xing Master, was excited. During the fight for the Duandong River inheritance, Dear Bug Master and the others died, so I had a chance to become a Universe Master. Pei Xing Master was exhilarated. A Holy Land could only withstand a limited number of Universe Master, rendering him and the others at the Universe Knight level. They couldn't make a breakthrough. But during the fight for the Duandong River inheritance, Dear Bug Master and a group of other Universe Masters died. That meant the Universe Masters to be finally had a chance. And based on their power, Purple Moon Ancestor had allowed some of them to become Universe Masters. Finally, I can enter Universe Ocean. Pei Xing Master opened his black wings, and a suit of black armor covered his body as he gazed out at the endless space. I, Pei Xing Master, will become something. Pei Xing Master was ambitious. This video will end here.